I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities of Music. Today, my friends, we are going to review the new album from a band you guys might know about. They're called the Black Keys, and this album is called El Camino. This is the Black Keys' 7th album, and Black Keys, if you aren't familiar with them, you're probably living under a rock, but they're a blues rock kind of revivalist band in the same vein as like what the White Stripes did, and other artists have done in the past decade of bringing, you know, blues rock back to the forefront of indie music, but it's gotten some serious popularity. You know, they've had a number of singles that have made it onto commercials and into TV shows, and so these guys have done very well for themselves in establishing a name as like one of the big artists.
And more recently, they've really been enjoying a lot of popular success, which is good for them. I'm glad that this kind of genre can rise to the top when someone's doing well at it.
And we reviewed, I think it was their 2010 album, Brothers, and I think we liked that one pretty well.
Yeah, I think we gave it upper 70s.
Yeah, there's a couple tracks on that I just absolutely love and still listen to. And so there was really a lot of excitement about this. I mean, music critics everywhere have been buzzing about this. This is the second Black Keys album, produced and also kind of co-written by Danger Mouse, you know, a very established producer. Well, VIMTV has reviewed a number of Danger Mouse
He gets his hands on a lot of projects.
He does.
He knows what he's doing behind the mobile mixing board.
And to tell you the truth, Tom, I'll just go ahead and say this. I'm a little burnt out on Danger Mouse's sound.
Yeah.
He seems to do the same things and the same tricks of his trade in every single album that he touches, and
which is kind of a shame, because he gets his hands in so many different projects of so many different sounds that when you have that Danger Mouse stamp on it, it kind of it's like it takes away from the originality of and the more pure sound of what you're trying to listen to.
Because before, when the first time that I got this and listened to it, I didn't even know, I hadn't done any research on the album. I just knew that they had a new album that came out, and I listened to the first few tracks. I go, wow, this sounds like Danger Mouse is all over this. And then come to find out, yes, he did. So one thing that you can expect in listening to this, if you're you know, where historically the Black Keys have done, you know, lots of blues riffing, and it's really kind of this dirty guitar sound with heavy drums and you know, loud vocals that are just kind of spastic. You know, now that it's much more constrained. Everything on this is tempered. The beat is put really loud in the mix. The guitar, there's a lot less guitar instrumentation here. I was disappointed to see you know, kind of guitar take a backseat to the production, and then
there are some cool guitar riffs, but actually the production forces it to the background. Well, and actually more the side ground, with some really extreme panning. You'll have, you know, a guitar lick that sounds really cool, but it's just coming out of this side. You know, it's not very front and center. It doesn't really demand your attention.
Right. And while there are cool guitar riffs, I would argue that there's at least less cool guitar riffs on this album as there were in previous Black Keys releases, or even others in this genre. One thing that you know, I've heard comments on that, you know, I harp a lot on song structures and doing repetitive song structures, you know, in verse chorus format over and over again. And that is the case on this album. That's a very prevalent factor. And most of these tracks, there's a couple exceptions like Little Black Submarine, but to the most part, you know, these guys stick to that formula. Now, blues rock inherently comes from that ABAB formula. In fact, that's where pop, you know, and rock music kind of evolved from blues. So that's where it came from. So I'm a little bit okay with them, a little bit more lenient on it here.
Because it fits with the style that they're
going for. However, I think that these guys are actually taking a much more commercial pop direction with their sound, with El Camino. And what I've noticed is that these choruses are meant to be very poppy. They're very vocally oriented. The vocalist, they put whether it's kids or it's a falsetto chorus behind him, and it's just the production on it just kind of drives me crazy, because you have these, it just takes all the soul away from the blues, and blues is all about having that soul and that emotion come through in these just beautiful guitar riffs. But Tom, tell me what your take on El Camino
was. Well, coming out of Brothers, which, you know, didn't even come out 2 years ago, my biggest complaint, if you go back and watch that review from way back when, is that I felt like of all the tracks on that album, the tempo and general intensity and energy was just kind of stagnant and the same throughout. I actually think they get a lot closer to fixing that problem on here, which actually it's something, it's a problem they didn't really have on older Black Keys albums at all. It's just kind of showed up more recently. This one's much better in that regard, but at the same time, it doesn't quite fix everything, because with it come other problems for me. And in general, I actually find myself liking this less than Brothers, just because there aren't as many standout tracks.
Right.
I like a lot of tracks in the first half of the album. And then the last half, like, I still enjoy it overall, but I'm just kind of done with it. And some of that is the production, for sure. You know, Danger Mouse is a good producer, I think, technically. He knows how to get good sounds. But, you know, I feel like he doesn't adapt his style of production enough to the style of music he's working with, like we said. And so it makes for just kind of a clash of Black Keys sound, Danger Mouse production. I don't feel like works. Now, I know that I'm in the minority here, because a lot of people are really loving this album, and that's good. I don't understand all of the hype.
And I think you and I really we get into the dirtier edge, that edge that the blues artists and specifically like the White Stripes and Black Keys have. And when you put Danger Mouse's production on it, it kind of crops the high and low ends of the intensity spectrum, you know? So it's
much more middle ground, much safer. But honestly, I gotta say, as much as we've complained about the production, I think if this had the production of older Black Keys albums, it still wouldn't be entirely fixed, just because I think there's a lot of...
took a step back.
Yeah, I think the songs don't sound as inspired. They just don't have that true energy.
Yeah, and they wrote this, you know, in studio rather quickly, and so I give them, you know, it kind of makes sense when you put it into perspective. However, comparing it album to album and other albums out there, this is what we have to go off of. So even though in context, they recorded this fast, I don't really care, because it still as an album is less to me than other albums in this genre and other albums that are out right now. Now there are a number of catchy tracks on it.
Yeah.
You really like Gold on the Ceiling, track 3, and we both love Little Black Submarine. You like Moneymaker, I like Nova Baby at the end. Now, I do agree with you, though, that I think that it's more front heavy than back heavy.
Kind of in the middle. Actually, the last two tracks I think are a little better, but kind of tracks like 6 through 9, I'm just kind of
Tom, to me, this is one of those albums that has a number of good things going for it, some catchy songs, but just there's a couple problems keeping it out of the really good range. So I'm going to go 67 on this one.
I'll meet you there at 67.
All right, what do you guys think? Let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Also, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook, so we can get our talk on about El Camino and other Black Keys records and music in general. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VAMTV, moving music critique forward.